Hey Flosstube, it's Katie the Stash Queen. If you just watched my last two videos, you knew that I was, same day, doing a review and a flip through of the first ever XSTITCH magazine, a cross-stitch magazine for a modern world. The theme of the magazine for this issue is revolution. It's very much based on the current politics of today. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I'm a huge fan of this magazine. There are pieces in it I will absolutely definitely stitch, others that I think are just amazing that people did stitch and put them together. It is, like I have warned in my other videos, there is a very political bent to them. It fits with my line of politics. It won't fit with everyone's. We are a very divided nation these days with our politics. I am not one to make this a political channel. My viewpoints are probably pretty easy if you see anything that I ever do as far as profile pictures and the like. But if you are on, I don't want to say this to offend anyone, if you are more on the political right in this world or in this country, you may not be a fan of this magazine. You may. There's some in here that really aren't political, but they all have a theme around revolution. And it's much more of a leftist feel, at least to me. Again, doesn't bother me, might bother some of you. But that being said, this magazine, first and foremost, whether you like the subject matter or not, it's incredibly well done. It is a thicker page. There are 98 pages. See? 98 pages in this magazine. Tons of patterns, tons of designers I have never heard of, which I think is amazing because you keep seeing the same design. I love the other magazines, don't get me wrong. You guys have seen me do the magazines, you see all the stuff that I do. I love all of the designers that you see in our normal magazines, but I love getting some exposure to people that I didn't really know about before. A lot of them are involved in what they call craftivism, which is basically activism via crafting, which I think is really cool. I am going to do this I'm not going to obviously read page by page what's going on, but I'm going to, instead of just showing the patterns, I'm going to give you a better viewpoint of what the entire magazine is. From my understanding, this is currently just going to be a twice-a-year magazine unless the demand goes up for it to be quarterly. And based on the quality of this, I can see why I want it to go quarterly. But I can definitely understand why it might be a slower or a less frequent magazine than others, but it's totally worth it if you ask me. So it starts off with an introduction letter from Mr. XSTITCH, who is the editor-in-chief of the magazine. We've got the whole table of contents. Obviously not going to go through all, but I love just the design and the background, and it is a total different feel. There is some language issues in here, just so you're well aware. First pattern is called It All Begins Here. This I thought it's very much a Vegas type feel, and it gives an introduction on each pattern as to why the person felt that their pattern or what they were called to do with the theme of revolution, which again, I think is fantastic that every piece in this magazine is based on that theme. They've got the very easy to read chart information down here at the bottom. They even have also, I noticed this, music. There was a song selection to go with each piece. I think that's awesome. That's just really cool. I don't want to show patterns, obviously, but they are big. They are in color. If you are not one who likes color patterns, I personally prefer color patterns, but if you don't, these are color patterns. They are not black and white. But most European or the magazines that come from England and the like are colored. So if you're used to that, that's what this is. Then we've got Fight the Power. Like I said, political bent. Oh, and I will say, I forgot to mention this on the first one. It tells you who the designer is, where you can find them on different social media sort of things, so you can find more. So there's that. Very easy one to make into other colors too. This one, they also have some of them that have quotes from other people or places and whatnot. This one has a quote in it from the movie V for Vendetta. So this one is called Revolutions. It's the pattern that's up here. I like this one a lot. I love that feel of them going in and out like that. Let's see here. Then we have this one, which is called a Cruel Tattoo. It's not really cruel pattern, but it's got really cool, just, you know, it's got the arms and all sorts of different embroidery techniques on this. It's not straight cross stitch, which I also think is kind of cool. Let's see here. Then we have an article. It's got articles in it that I don't normally read the articles in other magazines. I'll be perfectly honest. I'll read the designer ones if I like the designer and I know the designer and I want to see it, but I don't read a lot of the other articles in it. It feels like filler to me. Here it did not feel like filler. It actually felt more like a news magazine or a magazine that I would pick up to read for the articles. This one is all about, it's called Thought Spike, and it's all about craftivism, and it's just, I'm not going to go into it fully in detail, but it's more than just how did you get into cross stitch, how did you get into designing. I mean, it talks about this great piece that was done. This one up here, it is, let's see, it's the Stitch for Syria campaign, where they where Mr. XSTITCH had developed a pattern, people could download it and put it together, and or do it, send it in, and they put it together in a great huge big quilt, which is just awesome. I've done some stuff like that before with World of Charity Stitching a few years ago, where you stitch a common theme and they put it together for something else. It's cool. Okay, this next one is called Pink Wedge. It's very abstract. It actually is more than that, but I can't show you the rest because it's on the pattern. Sorry. This one is really cool. A zoetrope, where this isn't the pattern. This is, well, actually it is the pattern. Sorry, ignore that. But what it is, it's different movements of the cat. So when you do it and set it up and spin it, it looks like it's running. Isn't that cool? I think that's awesome. Sorry for inadvertently showing the pattern. And it gives instructions on how to put it together and what you need to do. Very detailed instructions with the pattern, which is something else I think is lacking in other magazines, where they tell you, I mean, they've got the section in the back, and this one does too, of certain types of stitches and stuff that might help, but like putting together ornaments, so you just say refer to page whatever on how to do finishing flat back ornaments, or whatever it is, the finishing that they're recommending. This one, it's there with the pattern. You don't have to look for it. Big red. It tells you what you need to do. Warning, language. This is probably one of the more leftist ones. Pussy grabs back. Don't think I need to give a whole huge explanation as to what this is referring to. But hey, it's bold, it's out there. That's a demonic looking cat, but hey, that's kind of the point. I will say, yeah, I'll show you the advertisements in it. Every magazine has advertisements. That's how it works. But I like how, I mean, they do it kind of on this column on the side. They don't seem as obtrusive, and yet at the same time, they do grab your attention, which is really nice. Like, here's one of the examples of the quotes they've got down here. It's a really fantastically put together magazine. This one, I think, is awesome. It is also called Revolution, but it is a round plastic canvas piece. You see how it has this line that kind of goes through the middle? That's because of how it's stitched. And it's meant to use whatever threads that you may have, which is why you've got all sorts of different patterns up here, or different color schemes up here. It's kind of meant, she even says in here, that this revolutionary design uses secondhand wool. I want to encourage people to use what they already have. So it tells you how to stitch this. It does not tell you a color scheme. It's up to you. And I think that I want to do that. I think that looks awesome. Okay, I'm going to totally, because I don't speak French, plus change. That's how it says. Sorry, pattern. That's what it says. That's the pattern. It's gorgeous. I love it. I'm going to do it. But I couldn't pronounce it to save my life. Let's see. Then here is another article. This is about a designer named Betsy Greer, a craftivism pioneer. Shares how she discovered that cross-stitch is a powerful tool for growth and personal development. So again, it's an article that I feel really is more gripping to us, or to people. It's, again, well done article, shows copies of her pieces. It's more than just 2 pages right here of kind of superficial stuff. It actually really goes into detail about her own personal journey, why she thought crafting was able to be her own form of protest when she wanted to, and, you know, the liberating feeling of doing the projects. I'm reading this article at this point. It says, with cross stitch, that can be hundreds, if not thousands, of acts of revolution. They aren't just any act of revolution for me either. They are tiny points of internal change, slowly guiding me forward. They provide tangible proof that I am capable and that I am creative. I think that's awesome. It's a great philosophy. Here's another warning of what it looks like. Pussy Riot Putin. Can you guess why I said this was more of a leftist-leaning magazine? Hey, not necessarily my style. I appreciate the thought in this. I think it is a fantastic political statement. Totally legit. Then we have, let's see, we have an X-Stitcher of the month, where they highlight a different stitcher, designer, things I like to stitch, snippet wisdom, what they stitch. I think that's really cool to kind of highlight people out there in the community. We've got some tooled ups. Again, we see every magazine has different tools and such. This one actually grabbed my attention to wanting to read more about the different tools that they were suggesting, because they're a little bit different than your normal. Okay, this one is actually the cover without the word revolution on it, but this is a pattern that I'm showing next. It is called Final Twist, and it's a graphic optical illusion, but this is the pattern without the word revolution on it. The pattern inside here, it's just the pattern, so that's why I'm showing you the cover. 2 colors only, but easily, because this one it was stitched with red and white. I am not a fan of stitching white on white. I could easily see you getting a dyed fabric and only stitch, or even a white fabric and just stitching one color and not the other. And you can clearly do this in all sorts of different color schemes. It's very easy to do that. It says, okay, this is also kind of a neat one, not really my style, but it's called You May Paint on Me, But I Will Still Be Here. It's graffiti. It's a wall with graffiti on it. A very interesting statement of today's world. There's a revolution going on in human culture, not a revolution with guns and weapons, but rather a revolution of the mind, of ideas and perceptions. The needlepoint that I do seeks not only to recognize the dystopian ruins of our society, but also reflect the ability of humans to create beauty in the most unlikely places. Then, let's see, we've got some more advertisements. This one is Jill Scott Heron, who I did not know who this person was, honestly. But there's information in here by the designer. It says, emerging from the civil rights and student activism movements, Jill Scott Heron's The Revolution Will Not Be Televised has been more recently been sampled by Kanye West, so it's a singer. Did more recently be sampled by Kanye West, Common, Lupe Fiasco, and countless others, but it is the original version that is the most powerful. A true analysis would take many more words than there are space for here, but the song was born from Jill's observations on the pervasiveness of advertisements on television, compared with coverage of political activism and social change. So, a social activist. This one is also very pretty. This is a mandala. Sorry. easily do it in whatever color scheme you wanted to. Then we have Twitch Stitch, which is it's different from Flosstube. It's another medium, but it's a video. It talks all about the community of Twitch Stitch. This one is Respect Existence or Expect Resistance. I will be doing this one. Let's see. This one is Crappistry. I think that's gorgeous. This is actually an article about this individual and his discovery into this version of. Now, we all know that we have women power, female empowerment has been big in lots of areas this year. Clouds Factory is doing their Fabulous Women. I just started a piece that I talked about in one of my earlier videos about a witch's place is in Dumbledore's army. This is a woman's place is in the revolution. It has some fantastic women in it. My favorite is the fact that it has Ruth Bader Ginsburg right down there. Notorious RBG. I will be doing that pattern. This one is cool in a different sort of revolution. It's a scientific revolution. And it's blueprints for the Saturn V. I think that's awesome. And my son is big on space and big on science. It's very much a pattern I could see doing for him. Language. Bleep. Yeah, needlework advice. But it's different than just your, it's got questions that I made this piece of needlework and I had fun making it, but I don't know, is it kind of terrible? And it gives you, answers instead of, how do I do this? So this one right here says, how the hell do I anchor a French knot? I lose my mind over those things. It's brutally honest, but it gives you legitimate advice instead of some of the canned things that get repeated over and over and over again. This is Be the Change. I like that. Be the change you want to see in the world. There is glow in the dark on that one. Oh, see? It says be the change, right? But when you put it in the dark, stay strong in the dark. That is stitched in what you saw with glow in the dark thread. Here's another great article in an exclusive extract from her book, How to Be a Craftivist, The Art of Gentle Protest. So it's another great article. This one is Tangerine Dream. Breaking the rules of tradition in traditional medium. The colors and shapes from our streets empower our urban woman and give them sass and individuality. Then we have a Stitchers of Instagram. So it tells you about a stitcher that's on Instagram and how you can go find them. Different types of DMC advertisements too. What I was impressed with, that here is some cross stitch basics that are in the back, but it gives you visuals. It has the loop method. I don't use the loop method, but it's right here in the magazine with pictures on a step-by-step. Waist knot, fractional and 3/4, or fractional and back stitching. I like these a whole lot more than I have seen in other magazines, frankly. And then here's the lattice method for framing in step-by-step. Here is This Too Shall Pass, which I think it's a really cool effect. Then it tells you about all of the contributors in the magazine. It gives them a little shout out, who they are, a little bit more about them, which I think is also very cool to recognize the designers and the contributors. And then it gives us a little preview. The next issue is going to be beats. So I'm thinking music and such. But who knows? They took so many different definitions of revolution and so many different viewpoints on this. It was impressive. I love the magazine. It won't be for everyone's taste. If you're much more of a traditional stitcher, if you are much more, I don't want to say conservative stitcher, if it doesn't align with your politics, if you're not into the more modern designs, then this magazine won't be for you. I love it. I think it is fantastic. It is beautifully done. It does come from the UK. I think there are a limited number of these. The website to go to it is xstitchmag.com. I'll put a link to it below. I don't know how many they have left, but I think there is a digital download for this. Don't quote me on that, so if I'm wrong, don't get mad at me, but I believe there is a digital download option for the magazine. So feel free to check that out as well if they are out of the hard copy. I will be ordering their next hard copies and subscribing to this as well, because I think it is fantastically done. So that's all from me this time around. I hope you guys liked that flip through and my little review of it. If not, that's okay too. I love you guys anyway. I'll see you guys next time.